You've watched some YouTube videos on strategy. You've listened to influencer traders talk about mindset. You've bought challenges and you've blown them. And now you're doubting if this actually works or if this is just another internet scheme. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain to you, 1, the harsh truth about prop challenges, and 2, how a consistent trader approaches it with the tools, systems, and routines that work. And if you stick to the end, you will know everything you need to actually do to get funded and actually rack up some payouts as well. Hi, I'm Connor Woods, and I've pretty much done it all when it comes to this industry. I've passed prop challenges, I've received payouts, and to be honest, I've failed multiple prop challenges as well. I know what works, but more importantly, I know what doesn't work, and I learned from that experience. I'm a professional in this industry and have been working full-time as a market analyst since I was 20 years old. I've featured on websites such as investing.com and FX Street, so I've seen everything behind the scenes as well. But less about me and more about what your journey needs. You see, most traders think passing a prop challenge is about signals or some secret strategy, but it's not. Here is the truth. So although I do not have the exact stats, of course, it is reported that only 1 in 20 traders actually pass prop firm challenges. Doesn't sound a lot, right? Well, that's because the 19 out of 20 make the same mistakes over and over again, and they don't listen to their mentors or their educators. These common mistakes are over leveraging, no journal, revenge trades, all of those sorts of things. So here are some of the common mistakes that I see people make over and over again. Over leveraging is obviously the main one. So they just get excited when it comes to market volatility and they place too many trades, they place too much risk. No trading journal for me is a big one. When you actually come to trade as a prop trader or a trader in general, it's important that you treat it like a business. So you need to write down every single trade that you have. Then you can review it and you can actually learn from your mistakes. People come to me and they say, "Oh, Connor, I've blown this prop challenge. You know, what went wrong?" And I say, "Well, can you show me, the trades you placed?" And they just send me an MT4 statement. And I said, "Well, you don't even know the mistakes you've made because you've not really been writing them down. If you were writing them down as you were trading, you'd have had a much better chance of actually looking, analyzing and correcting it before it completely all went wrong." So the other one that comes to mind quite a lot, just when I think off the top of my head, is revenge trading as well. Often people find it really, really difficult to take a loss, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to when you have to admit that you're wrong. But you need to train yourself that by being wrong and then going back onto the charts and just doubling down or being angry and taking it personally, it's just going to lead to failed prop challenges, blown accounts, and just you going back to square one every single time. And at the end of it, I'm sure you probably, when you've had a revenge trading session and you've lost that prop firm, you look back and you're like, why did I do that? Like, what was the point in that? So this is how a consistent trader approaches things. So the first one is risk management. A lot of people always use that term risk management and actually explain what that is. So in this video right now, I'm going to basically give you what my risk management strategy is for the majority of the ways that I trade. For example, if I was in a trade and I got to a 1-to-1 risk versus reward, I always look to see if I can move my stop loss to a more sensible place, so I minimize my losses. Then I also try and take half of the profits off the table. So let's say I had 2 lots on a GBP USD buy. It went up to 1-to-1. My risk versus reward was 1-to-1. I would move my stop loss to a more sensible level and I'd also close 1 lot. Then I've basically banked profits, and no matter what happens after that, I can't lose. Then if I got to 2-to-1, that's when I move my stop loss to my entry level. And that means I've basically got a risk-free trade. And if you're getting into trading, I can promise you that having risk-free trades is one of the best ways to actually approach markets. Another one is all about mindset. Often when I see people starting to trade, they learn the strategy side of things before they do the discipline and the risk management and the psychology. If you're just watching this video and you're just wanting to look to get involved in trading or in prop firm, what I would suggest that you do, my best advice would be to do it the other way around. There's a reason that 90% of traders lose money, and I think it's often because they learn all the technical analysis first, make all the mistakes, messed up mentally with it all, and then they learn the discipline after, so you learn it the hard way. Whereas if you learn the discipline and the risk management first, you'll find yourself having a much greater chance of success. The other one is journaling. So I know we spoke about that at the beginning of the video, but have a trading journal. It's one of the best things probably that I done, and was one of the reasons that I probably went from being someone who wasn't a profitable trader into someone who was actually getting some consistent payouts. It was because when I was making all those mistakes, I could write them all down. I could write all my trades, how I felt about the trade, my confidence in the trade, etc. There's loads of free templates online, and if you drop a comment in the comment section, I can even send you my trading journal template as well. And then the other one is either back testing or forward testing. Now, I don't really mind which one you decide to do. Testing the way in which you're trading, like your strategy, is one of the most important things that you can do, because how would you know if your strategy has an edge if it's never been tested? So even if you've acquired a strategy which has apparently been tested, I would always look to try and forward test it for a bit. The thing about back testing for me is that you're doing it in past conditions, so the economic outlook changes. If you forward test, you're doing it in the live current environment. Conditions will always change in the markets. There'll always be a new narrative, a new economic event, and a recession or economic boom, etc. And your strategy might perform differently in those times. And if you forward test your strategy, you're going to find yourself having the best chance of success in prop firm, because you're actually going to be able to see if your strategy has an edge. So to summarize, back testing or forward testing, I don't mind. I personally prefer forward testing because I'm actually testing it in the live conditions. But more importantly, at least do one of them, because otherwise you're never going to know if you've got an edge. And just finally, some last advice from me before you take your next prop firm challenge. Set a realistic time frame. So often, like in your life, you might have something, a goal you want to achieve. So there's a particular car you want to buy, or there's a particular you want to save for a mortgage on a house or something, or a deposit on a house or something like that. And then you end up getting caught up with, I need to do this in a certain time frame. I always say, don't set yourself a time frame. With Atmos, there is no time frame, in order to hit the profit target. So the markets aren't going anywhere. You can just take your time with it, rather than deal with the extra pressure of needing it in a certain amount of time. I often find if you put a time on something, that's often when you start failing, because you end up rushing the trading setups rather than focusing on those higher quality ones. The other one as well is how you deal with any fail challenges, because it might take you a couple of attempts, for example, or pressure on the trading because you want to make a certain amount of profit for whatever reason. One of the best ways that I always say to deal with this is you got to think how many people are trading, millions and millions of people that are trading the markets. The market doesn't care about your particular strategy or the way that you trade. It's going to do whatever it wants to do once you're in the trade. And you've got to try and have that approach where you've got to become emotionless, almost robotic in the way that you trade. So the more emotionless you can be when it comes to trading, the best chance you have of success. Now, that doesn't sound fun. It doesn't mean that you can't celebrate your winners away from the charts. When you're on the charts, it needs to be strictly business. So if you're ready to take your trading seriously and prove that you can trade with size, come and join us.